everyone. We're gonna talk about white balance a little bit more. I want to show you some examples of times when you would correct white balance, some examples of white balance being used creatively, and then we're gonna look at your metering project photos and do some white balance work on those and turn that in as another project. All right, let's get to it. So first off, these are just images I pulled off the internets just for educational purposes. Except one of them is my own. But let's go ahead and take a look, and I'm going to go ahead and go into the develop module. We haven't played in this module yet, and don't worry, you will get there. Well, we're going to get there with this a little bit, but this is where we do editing on our images. So with this image, we have this beautiful, beautiful bride in a bunch of snow. Now, the thing with this image is that it was taken in the shade. And shade does give you a blue color temperature. So there's some things that you can do. Now, maybe the photographer just went with the blue because it was in the shade. They felt like it was the most true to what it actually looked like in real life, and that's completely fine. Now, if we wanted to actually correct this, correct the white balance so that her dress was appearing white, then we can go ahead and do that here in Lightroom. Now, there's a couple of different ways you can do this. Right up here is your first area is your white balance area. And under here, you have a couple options. Now, I only see as shot, auto, and custom, and that's because this is a JPEG file. JPEG file doesn't keep any of the extra information from your photo. Now, let me just switch really quick so you can see what I mean. I'm going to go to this raw photo. So this is a raw file. I'm going to talk about this in a few weeks about shooting in RAW versus JPEG. But for now, you can just know that basically the raw file is the original file that's created by your camera, whereas a JPEG is a compressed version of that file. So with this raw file, if I come here to white balance, it's actually going to give me all of the same presets that I had when I was shooting. So let's click here. And so I have as shot, the auto white balance. So that's what they would recommend, I guess. Daylight, cloudy, shade, tungsten. And so what's going on with this is that, for example, it's adding so much blue to this because the tungsten light is usually really, really orange. So to counterbalance that orange, the profile or the preset is actually adding a bunch of blue. So if this was actually taken in tungsten light, then it would look fine, but it wasn't, so that's why it looks so blue. Fluorescent, flash, and you can also see these little sliders moving down here. So like right here, flash, we have our temperature is set at 5500 with 0 on the tint. So no added green, no added magenta, but our temperature is set up at 5500. That's typically where flashes, where the color temperature for flashes are. And then we have custom. All right, so let's get back to our bride examples down here. Okay, so here she is. She's looking beautiful. Now, oh yeah, that's why I came over here. So you have the presets here. You can click and drag on these and, try to change it up here as well. Now, one of my favorite ways to help me at least start with setting my white balance, especially when there's anything in the scene, anything in your photo that's supposed to be neutral, that is supposed to be white, black, or gray. And I'm not talking about yellowy white, off-white. I'm not talking about navy blue that's close to black. I'm talking about these things have to be neutral colors. Because what happens when you click on this little tool here, it's the white balance picker tool. And wherever you go on the image and click, it's going to take in that information and try to make that area neutral. Take out the colors, balance everything out. So if I click here on the dress, and we actually get a preview right up here of what's going to happen. So let's pay attention to that. Let's see if I can make it larger. Nope, that's as big as it'll go. Okay, So if I'm coming over here, so we're getting some yellows added in, but see if I come up here, it's not going to make sense to click up here because it's not neutral. The sky is blue, so if we try to click up here, you can see in the preview that it's getting super yellow over there. So I'm going to come down here and click on part of the dress, and it looks like I'd already set it pretty good. Let's go back to as shot. So there's the original, and now when I go with the color picker, there you go. It's added, it looks like it's added quite a bit of yellow, and it's gone away from the magentas, added a little bit of green in there for us to get this white balance. Let me do a before and after, and if you want to do this, the backslash will take you to your before, and then you hit it again for an after. So there's the before, there's the after. Now I'm kind of thinking, because you know she does have blue hair, maybe they did this on purpose. Just completely fine. I like this too. But if you were going for a whiter dress, this is where you would go for. Okay, let's zoom out a bit and move on to the next photo. Alright, my recording software was in the way. I kept accidentally pausing. Okay, next photo. Alright, I'm going to click on fit. Now this is looking pretty good, especially with the color balance. I don't know what color this umbrella was, but you know, the blacks are looking pretty black, the whites are looking pretty white, but they do look kind of dingy, like maybe not bright enough. So what I'm going to do with this image is I'm actually going to take the exposure up, and the whites are actually looking white. Nice. I'm also looking at my histogram here, and let's go back. I'm going to double click on the exposure to go back. You can see that there's all this space over here in our histogram where there's no data. That's where our whites should be, and the majority of this image is white. So just looking at the histogram and knowing that it's in the snow, I know that this image is too dark. So I'm just going to, again, take this back up, and wow, that's already looking way better. Now, maybe our blacks are a little bit, you know, oh, I can't zoom in, it's a small resolution image. The blacks are looking, you know, starting to look a little bit dark gray. So in this case, I would just darken my blacks a little bit. Alright, and I think that already looks better. Let me hit that backslash. And yeah, we have these beautiful whites that are popping now. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, now this image I'm really confused about. I think the dress was actually an off-white, like a cream color, and it's a beautiful dress, don't get me wrong. Especially looking at the bouquet, maybe that was what they meant to do, because if I try to use my white balance picker on here, what happens is, you know, this whole thing becomes a lot more blue because this was so yellowy already. I like this too, I don't know. Looks okay. Which one do we like better? Before, after. You can see there's a little bit of maybe greens also. Yeah, because it added some magentas. I don't know. I'm liking the blue one, but still, even though that we know we've color corrected the dress, so we know that Lightroom has set that to be neutral, because of the difference of the dress on the bluer snow, it still looks like a cream color, doesn't it? Oh, crazy. Okay, let's move on to another one. Now, this is from a TV show. I'm sure some of you guys know. But, you know, the character is kind of dark and such, and so they created this image like this. Now, there was some very intentional editing happening here. Let's go ahead and pull up our white balance. And we know that the clouds are supposed to be white, right? So let's go ahead and click on that. And wow, what a big difference. So they added a whole bunch of yellows to the original image to get it to be that dingy. And I'm going to go ahead and brighten it up a little bit. Nah, it doesn't look so mean anymore, does he? So if we go ahead and hit the backslash, what a crazy difference that was, right? So, you know, when I was talking earlier and you're like, when they use white balance creatively, this is what I'm talking about. Happens all the time. Photography, videography, animation, yeah. Using white balance creatively, another term is color grading. is huge and can really help you communicate with your images. Let's go ahead. Oh, and before I continue, I did want to also point something out. Now with this image, I love doing this with photos, by the way. I like to look at the light and try to pick apart how they shot it. So we see that there's this really bright spot up here on his head. So that was more than likely being caused by the sun. Super bright sun hitting him right here. But the thing is there's this shadow on his glasses coming from the opposite direction. So I'm looking closely. We also have a shadow here from the jacket, the glass. Look at the nose. You have that loop lighting. Okay, so they used a 30-degree light coming from the side as well as the sun on this side of the face to create the lighting for this image. And you can see that that slight, side lighting is also emphasizing the texture of his wrinkles, which is all part of this character from this TV show, right? So let's go back again. And there's the original shot. Insane, right? Okay, last one, and I'll be quick on this one. This is the greens, the sickly greens. And this one I think is pretty obvious, but maybe not. So let's pull up our white balance picker. Bam. Now this is the true color of, the image, whereas the artistic color has these crazy greens all over it. Okay, let's get over to your metering assignment. I'm going to click back here on library. I'm going to click on my metering project, and we're back here with our lovely bags. So let's go ahead and try this out on these photos. I'm going to go to the Develop tab. I'm going to click here on my little white balance picker and click. So this is the one taken in sunlight, and now it's white. Alright, let's keep going. Click. So, before it was like, yeah, that's a white bag. But, with the yellow coming in from the sun, the color temperature, and then, our exposure, because this is the one that was metered at 0, whereas this one was the one that was overexposed. Now it looks like we have a gray bag. Crazy, right? Let's see what happens with the paper bag. So remember, when I'm taking this picker, well, you just got a preview. When I'm taking this picker, I'm telling Lightroom that I want this area to be neutral. So it is looking at the histogram up here and basically squishing all the colors, moving all the colors together so that it creates a neutral look. So we go ahead and click there, and now look at, you can see all those colors have now come together. All the data has been moved to be overlapping in order to create a neutral color, because I told Lightroom that this was supposed to be a neutral gray. Alright, so I'm going to keep doing this with all my photos, and you're going to do the same. I'm going to pause the video for a second and then come back in just a minute. Okay, so I went ahead and did my white balance picker on every one of these photos. So let's go back to the library, and wow, look at that. I mean, some of these you can barely tell they were taken in different locations anymore, right? Like, this is pretty insane. Now we have the very white bags, the white bags taken at 0, the paper bags, which are looking pretty gray now, and then our black bags, which is, except for like the slight shine, just a different type of plastic that was used, is almost impossible to tell. These ones are really close right here, like insanely close, and then our blacks are actually really black. So now for this assignment, all you got to do is come back over here, and let's go ahead and click on our first one. Hold down Shift, click on our last one. We're going to switch this back up. Let's go to, let's see, 3 rows and 5 columns? Yeah, that's what we did last time, right? Yeah. And then we just played with this a little bit. Oh, not that one. Spacing. What did I do different? Okay, I think that's what was messing up. I'm gonna take this keep square off, and there we go. There we go. Cell spacing. Okay. Alright, that'll work out. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm actually going to change this real quick. Let's take the file dimensions. Let's try 6 inches. Not that at all. Oh, maybe that was the issue. It was my bottom. Okay, that works fine. Alright, so here we go. Ready to roll. Let's go ahead and do print to file. And let's go Redondo, chapter 6. Chapter 6. What am I doing? Photo 6. White balance. Alright. And let's take a step back. Alright, and that's saving. And so, then this is the file that you're going to be turning in here. And yeah, pretty crazy to see what a difference that white balance does, huh?